got a ton of snow last night and this morning, and now it's all slush. My truck and four-wheel drive can hardly even go anywhere. Do you need parts? What is going on, my friends? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to episode 3 of the Rondocked STI rebuild. Today we are building the bottom end of the engine for this car and I'm very, very excited. I left the shop a complete disaster. I was in a massive hurry. I do need to get these heads resurfaced, so that's the only thing holding us back there. This motor is gonna stay relatively stock for the power level that I'm going for. There's no need for a crazy built motor like we put in Bobby's car. We do have a few nice little mods going into it, but for the most part, it's gonna be relatively OE. 600 wheel ain't all that much these days, I feel like, with a competent tuner. I just stopped by Bader's and picked up a few goodies. I ordered rods for this build when I ordered the rods for the other STI build that we did a few months back, mainly H-beams, and they still have not showed up. I could have gone with a different brand, but the OEM rods are gonna be plenty, if I'm being completely honest, for our power goal. So we are gonna stick with OEM rods on this build. Unfortunately, again, this is not an STI that I wanna do anything like 1,000 wheel plus with. I still wanna do the Hawkeye build to that crazy power level. And of course, that motor's gonna be balls to the walls, everything done to it. Let's get this party started. Everything is cleaned up, ready to go. We have a set of EJ257 case halves here. Fresh bore on those guys there. Resurfaced, good to go there. ECL bearings, Manley pistons, new OEM oil pan, OEM rods, new OEM crank. I'm just gonna stop saying OEM because everything's OEM. Oil pump, cooler, head gaskets, all the seals, torque solution, pickup, and baffle, and then all the other random parts and pieces for this puzzle. Also have my coffee for the day. Let's go ahead and knock the boring stuff out of the way. The tedious stuff, the important stuff. The important stuff is all the bearing clearances, piston wall clearance, and the ring end gap. Unfortunately, in this set of cases, we do have a broken off bolt that I should probably extract first. I'm just gonna weld another bolt to this bolt. That should hopefully allow us to pop it out. Finally got the old piece of bolt out, new one is in, and we are ready to go. All right, Rod bearing clearances are done 0024 on all four. It's a little bit bigger, and honestly, I've never had the same exact measurement on all four. It's always been like 0022 to 0025, somewhere in that range, I feel like, on a Subaru motor, but every single one is at 0.0024. Now we need to go ahead and assemble the cases and measure those out, but I'm happy with the rod bearing clearances. Those are beautiful. All right, we are all finished up finally with bearing clearances. That is the most time consuming part. A whole lot of numbers there if you guys care to look. We are gonna move on to piston to wall clearance. Now this is obviously set by the machine shop. I just double check it to see if they messed up or not. Last thing, very last thing before assembly is setting the ring end gap. Now this is why it's so important to file your ring end gaps. This ring won't even fit down into the bore. I've never actually seen this happen before, but imagine trying to put this together, cramming the piston down in the bore, and it doesn't go in. You'd probably bend a ring, crack a ringland, or do some serious damage. Always file your ring end gaps. So we are done with all of the boring, tedious, time-consuming parts of the build. And now it's time for the fun part, the assembly. I have been doing the bearing clearances and ring end gaps for about 3 hours now. Assembly on the short block is probably gonna take an hour. It's currently 6 o'clock, so if we're done by 7, I'm happy. Cases are assembled with the crank and rods. This is the sealant we're using today. I ran out of the 3-bond I usually use. With the 3-bond, you can assemble immediately and torque to spec immediately. With this stupid stuff, you have to wait an hour to torque it down. So while we're waiting for an hour to torque this thing down, we can go ahead and get the pistons installed. So let's get the rings set up on the pistons with the proper orientation. I'll show you guys how to do that. And then we can go ahead and jam them. Well, hopefully not jam, but set them, push them down into the cylinder walls. This here is the orientation guide I always go off of. So we got all of the rings installed. We're gonna go ahead and slap on the circlips on the back side of the piston, meaning on the front of the engine, we're gonna put the circlip on the inside, and then on the back of the engine, cylinders 2 and 4, the circlip is gonna go on the front side. We are running into a massive problem. I've never ever seen this before. For some reason, on one of the pistons, on one of the holes, the oil scraper rings have no gap, negative gap. So when I'm trying to put this last piston in, and now I'm gonna pull every other piston back out to confirm and just double check, it is just jamming up. So I pulled all the rings off the piston, and let me show you guys what I find when I take an oil scraper ring, which is this little tiny thin ring. It's probably an 1/8 of a millimeter thick. It goes around the oil expander ring on the bottom groove of the piston. Let me show you what happens. Check this out. There's no gap at all. I did check the bag, 99.50 millimeters, which is what this bore is on this motor. So I'm not sure what's going on. I'm gonna call Josh real quick. He uses Manly products and Manly products only. So I'm not sure if he's ran into this before. Josh?
Hi.
What are you doing?
Working on my Honda.
Your Manly boys are letting me down.
Damn, what did they let me down on?
Unless I'm dumb. Have you ever had to file an oil scraper ring?
Read the ring. What's it say for a number?
There's no, the top ring is just blank. Bottom ring has a dot.
You got to file the fuck out of the top and bottom one?
Yes.
And they gave you the wrong ring pack. They gave you 99, or they probably gave you 100 mils. That's your problem.
Bro,
So,
I filed the living shit out of the top and bottom.
Yes, I did the exact same. So I was like, what the fuck? Yeah, so they're 99.75 rings. Manly and JE, since they're all owned by the same company, fucked up and mislabeled all the rings. And so you're going through what we already have, because I'm guessing you probably already had them or they're old stock.
I've had these pistons laying around for like 6 months.
Yep, that's right, when we were going through it.
The other 3 pistons went in the hole just fine, but this 4th one, like I was showing you guys, would not go in the freaking cylinder. according to Josh, he's ran into that problem like 6 times. And thankfully he has a spare set, or not a spare set. He's got a set of rings there, and I'm gonna overnight him a new set so we can get this thing done ASAP. All right, let's go ahead and pop out the other 3 pistons. I'm glad I caught this now. It does suck that we got to pull it back apart, but I'm glad I caught it now instead of later on when this thing grenades. All right, so after some testing, it appears we were sent 1 set of oversized rings and 3 sets of properly sized rings. And it just so happens that I found a spare set of 995 Manley rings here at the shop. So we are good to go ahead and slap this thing back together. I have never, ever checked the oil scraper ring end gap, but from here on out, I'm definitely going to be doing that. Crazy thing is, Manley doesn't even give you a spec for the oil scraper ring end gap, so I'm not exactly sure what it should be. What I do know, though, is that it should at least fit down into the cylinder walls, unlike these guys here. Oil pump time. Let's open her up, split the case, get it packed full of assembly lube, reassembled, and slap it on the engine. So the bottom end is all finished up. I'm moving on to the heads now. Just got these back from the machine shop, getting them resurfaced, and they did run up through the hot tank. But being that this was a bearing failured motor, I want to just double check and confirm that there's nothing at all left in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull them all apart. The only thing that's gonna be left in these heads is the valves with the springs and whatnot. All the plugs are coming out, cams are coming out, buckets are coming out. Gonna be fully disassembled, and I'm gonna go through and re-clean everything. Scrape gasket surfaces and make them perfect. And just like that, the passenger side of the engine is complete. Let's go ahead, flip this thing over and knock out the driver's side. And just like that again, we have a complete long block. If we had a clutch to put in this car, I would stay here all night, get this thing timed, clutch on, drop it in the car and go drive it. But our clutch comes in tomorrow, so that means I don't have to pull an all-nighter here at the shop, even though I really want to. It would be pointless. So I'm gonna come here tomorrow and we can get this thing in the car and go drive it, and hopefully it runs good. I don't see why it wouldn't, but here she is in all of her glory, all cleaned up, nice and shiny, ready to go. Super excited for this thing. I'm just hoping and praying this little, I think it's a Dom 3.5 is going to make the sauce. I think it'll be all right. So with that being said, I'm gonna wrap up today's video right here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. And I know this was not a tutorial, so I hope it was at least entertaining. Goodbye.